Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be some initial testing for the new Veil champion, Excruciator, and kind of showing how the Veil mechanics are working and kind of my initial thoughts on all of that. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so currently the champion training event that is going on, I did finally complete it and was able to acquire this new Veil champion, Excruciator. Excruciator is kind of the introduction to the game of the Veil buff. There is supposed to be Veil and Perfect Veil, and Excruciator actually has the normal base version of it, the Veil. So this passive here places a Veil buff on this champion for 1 turn at the beginning of each round, and places a Veil buff on this champion for 1 turn if they kill an enemy. Now, under Veil, the champion cannot be targeted, but they will still get hit by things that attack randomly or do AoE, like attack all enemies. So Excruciator can still get hit while under Veil, but cannot be targeted specifically by an ability. So it certainly can help her to survive like waves of trash mobs, or in the campaign when farming food, or in the arena. But in the arena, a lot of things are AoE nukes, so it's not going to really help her surviving in the arena. But it could in dungeons and, you know, like the initial waves when you're farming, you know, speed farming dungeons and stuff. Now, when under the normal version of Veil, when she attacks, she will lose her Veil buff unless she kills an enemy, and then it will replace the Veil buff. But the visuals of it are a little bit weird, and I will go into that when I kind of show. So what I wanted to set out and do now that I got Excruciator was do some initial baseline testing on how good her damage is with these skills, and also, you know, find out if she's worth investing in or not, and kind of, you know, forward that information to you guys. So the way I go about testing these things, because of the way multipliers work, you know, you can't just go by the base stat, you know, because a character with 2000 base attack might get out damaged by a character with 1000 base attack. If that character with the less attack has a way better multiplier, it doesn't matter what the base stat is. You have to know what the multiplier is, and that information is not publicly available to us. We have to dive in and really, you know, get some boots on the ground and test these things, because we're, you know, you can't just go by the base stat. You have to know the actual true damage and the multiplier of the skill. So what I do to accomplish this is I get her to level 40, and then I compare her to another epic that scales off of the same thing, scales off of attack, which would be Hellgazer, and then I try to get them to have as close to the same attack and you know, crit damage. So what we have here is Hellgazer has about 1100 attack and 60% crit damage, and then Excruciator has about 1100 attack and 60% crit damage. So this way, you know, if I put them in a situation where they only attack void characters, I can get a true feel, you know, because you don't want to have like an affinity, you know, situation where you're throwing stuff off. So if they're both going against void champions and have pretty similar stats scaling their damage, I can figure out which one outperforms the other one in terms of like damage output in a dungeon. So a good way to go about this, after you got them geared to have similar stats for a baseline of testing, we can go into like Minotaur 3 is a good spot to start, because all of the enemies are going to be void, and you can kind of get a feel for the output of these skills. So let's just kind of do a run on auto here, and we can see the grayed out look of the Veil champion, which is pretty cool. I do like the aesthetics of that, kind of the stealthy look. And let's just do a run on auto and see which one does more damage, which attack character is going to kind of hit harder and do more damage. So right off the bat, we can see that the Excruciator's A1 does hit significantly harder than Hellgazer's A1. About 20 to 25% if I had to guess. And her A2, while under the Veil buff, is hitting pretty decent. That was kind of weak there. And that was the AoE of Hellgazer. Alrighty, so now when the level ends, we can see Excruciator did just a little bit more damage. You know, what is that, about, 15 to 20% more? Well, no, it's closer to 20%. About 20% more damage than the Hellgazer in terms of actual raw output. Now, I want to go over this here really quickly. Oh, the day reset. That's why it lagged a little bit. The in-game day reset. Okay, so with the veil is kind of confusing me a little bit, because the normal veil is supposed to go away when you attack, and she has the normal veil unless you kill an enemy. So when we attack with our A1, you can see that we got a kill, so the veil buff stays, but the grayed out effect went away. So that's weird. This says it will place it at the start of the turn, and then if you kill an enemy, it will place it again. So I don't know why the visual of the grayed out stealthy look goes away. The buff is still showing here, and from what I can tell in testing how the damage works, the buff is still applied. Like, it's just the visual is a little bit weird. Like, she should be grayed out if she has a veil buff active. So I'm curious as to why that's the case, why the aesthetic changes. Okay. Hellgazer does have that really good AoE ability, which the Excruciator does not have. So that's a huge kind of downfall while comparing Excruciator to other damage characters. She doesn't have an AoE hitter. And yeah, so you get a kill, the veil buff stays on top of the health bar, but the grayed out effect goes away. And it looks like it can predict. It looks like it knows if it's going to get a kill or not before, because the veil buff kind of gets placed like to the side as they're attacking. So it's like it knows if it's going to get a kill or not. Okay, so yeah, that was basically the same result. It was another 20 to 25% larger damage increase for the Excruciator in terms of versus the Hellgazer. So now that we've done that, let me pull up the Excruciator again here and kind of give you my thoughts on if I think you should invest in Excruciator and kind of how I would change things if not. So I don't really, my first impression is that the multiplier isn't really good enough to justify bringing a normal veil in terms of Excruciator's capacity up to a 6-star investment with skill books and everything. If we look at, it's going to be 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 skill books isn't bad for an epic. A lot of epics are, in that like 13 to 15 range. So 9 isn't bad. There are some epics like Doom Priest that only take like 4 or 5 skill books. But generally the average is about 13, 12 or 13. So pretty good that only takes 9 skill books. And we can see that we do get, 20% damage fully booked up. And this will go to a 3-turn cooldown. What I would like to see is, if it's not going to be a perfect veil, I would bump this up to damage increased by 40% based off what I was seeing with the multiplier, and then I would up this to like 50%. I would go 40 and then 50 and really help her hit the single target a lot harder if that's going to be her main utility. Her speed is decent at 96, but definitely not like over 100 or anything great. The attack score is very good, almost 1600 for an epic is a pretty good attack score. But the fact that she isn't bringing any sort of buffs or debuffs to the team, or any AoE, she's only bringing solo damage and single target damage. That's it. That's all she brings. So she would really need to hit very hard, and even if she does get a kill, off of that solo hit, she doesn't get another turn like a Horadin or a Relic Keeper, or you know, something that can kind of snowball. She doesn't have that, so she would need to hit a little bit harder than my initial testing with her multiplier would indicate. So the way I would rebalance her, if it were up to me to kind of make a change to make her worth 6-starring, is bump up the damage increase a little bit, and then I would also provide some utility to this A2. You know, attack one enemy and place a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. You know, that way she hits something pretty hard and then brings a little bit of sustain to the whole team or something. Like, you know, that's just kind of an initial like opening reaction. That's not, you know, like a final idea, but some utility to help her kind of push her over the top and be the epic champion with the Veil buff, you know, being introduced to the game. That would really be worth kind of thinking about investing in, because in her current state, I can't recommend that it be worth to 6-star her based off of what I'm seeing with my initial reaction and testing. So yeah, that's going to kind of do it for what I wanted to cover in this video in terms of how I go about testing characters and figuring this stuff out and looking into the multipliers. If any of you out there have invested in Excruciator, definitely drop a comment and let me know what your initial reactions are, and you know, if you are happy with that decision and how hard she is hitting and all of that. So as of right now, I would recommend not worth a 6-star and probably not worth the skill books just off of my first reactions. And yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.